He's announced this investigation into my alleged mortgage fraud. And as you know, in order to engage in mortgage fraud, you need intent. And there was no mortgage fraud on behalf of myself or any other individual. Mortgage fraud is a rare type of investigation and indictment. And the facts are not substantiated. At the end of the day, we all know that the mortgage fraud is baseless.
We are not going to tolerate gaslighting from anyone in the media or from anyone on the other side who is trying to say that it's the president who is weaponizing the DOJ, and it is not weaponizing the Department of Justice to demand accountability for those who weaponized the Department of Justice. It was Joe Biden and his attorney general who weaponized the DOJ. And you look at people like Adam Schiff and like James Comey and like Letitia James, who the president is rightfully frustrated. He wants accountability for these corrupt fraudsters who abused their power, who abused their oath of office to target the former president and then candidate for the highest office in the land.
Letitia James just picked up a brand new problem. A new prosecutor has stepped into her fraud case, and this one could flip her whole career upside down. Should she be worried? Or with all the evidence we've already talked about on this channel, is it possible that Letitia James will never have to deal with this at all? Let's get into it. 4 months on this channel, we've been talking about this mortgage fraud with Letitia James, and nothing has happened yet. And obviously the beef between her and Trump is red hot. They're going back and forth with each other, but it looks like maybe there's a new wrinkle in this situation. The fraud case that has been circling around her isn't sitting at the same desk anymore. The last U.S. attorney who looked at this case, Erik Siebert, said he couldn't prove James willingly committed mortgage fraud. His excuse was that the paperwork was messy. One form said primary residence, the other one said not primary, and the loan officers never seen the disputed document. He called the evidence too weak to win in court.
But the case against Letitia James was extensively investigated for 5 months, and President Trump's handpicked Attorney General Erik Siebert could not find any evidence that he committed a crime. So is the president saying here it doesn't matter if there's a crime, he just wants his political enemies to be charged?
Letitia James completely abused her oath of office. Letitia James was actively and openly engaged in lawfare, and we also have evidence of her mortgage fraud. An April report from a white-collar fraud investigator found that there was documented evidence that James engaged in a consistent pattern of financial and property disclosures that raise serious legal questions.
Which is kind of crazy because if you've been on this channel, if you've been on many channels, the evidence to me seems pretty obvious. Multiple sworn statements that contradict each other, signed documents sitting right there in the file. Again, if me or you pulled this stunt, we will be in jail. Explain it to a judge. That's why this Siebert's lack of evidence feels flimsy at best. It seems like there's some political reasons of why certain prosecutors don't want to prosecute certain cases. And it maybe not be based on evidence, it may be based on who you know rather than what you know. It's like finding a guy's signature on a bunch of bounced checks and the prosecutor goes around and says, you know what, this ink looks too messy. I can't prove the case. I can't prosecute him. Well, obviously with that, guess what happened? The dude is gone, resigned. And Trump, still furious how weak everything looks, has been urging the DOJ to actually start prosecuting people on mortgage fraud, talking about Letitia James and obviously Senator Adam Schiff. In his place, a brand new prosecutor handpicked under Trump's watch, ready to dig in where Siebert tapped out, and that alone changes the entire game here. So who's this new prosecutor everyone is talking about? Her name is Lindsey Halligan. And if you're wondering who, I'm sure you've seen her many times on many, I guess, conservative news channels. A year ago, she was just another Florida insurance lawyer. You know, roof leaks, busted pipes, homeowner claims. That was her resume. She hasn't been chasing mob bosses or political corruption. She was chasing mold damage. Then, out of nowhere, she jumps into Trump's legal team, and suddenly she's not just another lawyer. She's in charge of one of the most powerful U.S. attorney's offices in the country. Halligan went from roofing disputes to possibly ending the career of New York's attorney general. That's one hell of a promotion. Or, depending on how you see it, one hell of a setup. Of course, this matters to Letitia James because the Eastern District of Virginia, the office that Halligan is running now, is the exact same place reviewing James' mortgage paperwork. We're talking about those documents where James allegedly signed one thing 1 week and then swore the opposite 2 weeks later. Stuff about a house was her primary residence. Before, prosecutors looked at this and passed, not enough evidence, too messy, not worth the fight. But now with Halligan in charge, the question isn't, is there a case? The question is, does she want to make it a case? She is going to be the one who decides if Letitia James gets indicted. Now, this is where things get a bit weird. Halligan has no prosecutorial experience. Zero.
The Eastern District of Virginia has a new interim U.S. attorney who has no experience, by the way, as a prosecutor. Halligan had been working as a White House aide and previously served as one of Trump's private attorneys.
She's never been tried in a criminal case, never stood in front of a jury and said, ladies and gentlemen, nothing. So why her? One word, loyalty. Trump thinks he doesn't need a legal genius to do this. He needs someone that's going to swing hard and basically not ask a lot of questions. That's why Halligan's in that chair. Trump thinks his DOJ is pretty weak at this point. He's been trying to push it to be more aggressive. So if she does something, obviously people on the other side of the political spectrum is going to say this is political revenge. But I always go back to this question. Did Letitia James commit a crime? Because if the documents exist and the contradictions exist, and so far James hasn't really offered any explanation besides calling everything baseless. Baseless based on what? If there's evidence of a crime, she needs to take accountability of those issues. Now, this is not going to be easy because Letitia James thrives in this type of environment. She's been prosecuting powerful people for a very long time. Remember, she is the New York top cop. Her and her legal team are going to be ridiculously stacked. Remember, $10 million is allocated to fight this. So she's going to have the money, the connections, and every powerful lawyer in New York who wants to score points will line up to defend her. So right now, Letitia James is a hero on the left and a villain on the right. She spent her entire brand going after Trump for that fraud case. She's been linking up with other attorney generals, suing Trump left and right for a whole bunch of different types of issues. And on this channel, we've talked about this mortgage fraud case, the wire fraud, all of it. And I think a lot of people thought that an indictment was going to come any day now. So the real question, will Halligan pull the trigger? Will Letitia James end up being charged with the exact same crime she used to go after Trump for? Will Halligan get this person convicted and destroy every facet of Letitia James' career? Is it possible that this is actually going to happen? Especially during this political climate. Obviously, people are going back and forth screaming that Trump supporters are saying that James is finally getting a taste of her own medicine. But I'm gonna say this again. To me, it's about, did she commit the crime? And if Halligan can indict James, if she does this, this will be one of the biggest political trials since Trump. It will definitely dominate the news cycles, split the internet, obviously, and possibly break every cable panel show in half. And if she does nothing, it's possible that Trump will find another lawyer. I mean, many people think that this whole thing is just smoke and mirrors, and this is a way to scare Letitia James without landing a punch. Either way, we'll see what happens. I don't know. At this point, it's a good chance she may never get prosecuted for this. All the evidence has been there for years and nothing has happened yet. Let me know in the comments below. Do you think Letitia James is going to actually get indicted for this crime or alleged crime, or nothing really happens and we'll just see Trump and Letitia James go after it for the foreseeable future? Let me know. Put in the comments below. Thank you for taking time to watch this video, and I'll see you guys in the next video.